Has the American Sunlight Project received funding either directly or indirectly from the George Soros or his foundations, including the Open Society Foundation?
Thank you, Congressman. I've received a lot of threats for speaking out, and so I've decided that we are going to abide by the rules that other 501c4s in our country abide by, and we are not required to disclose our donors, small or large, because I frankly don't want them to be threatened the way that I have been.
So sunlight for other people, but not for your donors.
What is the mission of the state, the right of the state to form public opinion? Because we're talking about our government has been involved in doing that for the last few years.
In my opinion, the government has a First Amendment right to free speech as well, and SCOTUS has just affirmed that with a case last June. We just heard a case that came in federal court in New York that actually showed that NewsGuard was not acting as an envoy of the state.
So what is the role of the government?
The role of the government can express its free speech, right? And citizens have a right to their free speech as well. I don't really understand your question, sir. I'm not sure the point.
I'm asking you, what is the role of government in public opinion? Because we're talking about actions here that have tried to form public opinion on the Hunter laptop, on the Russia disinformation, all of that. I'm asking you, what is the role of government in that matter?
Absolutely, Congressman. So the government is allowed to express its own opinions, its viewpoints, as we're seeing this administration do, as we saw the previous administration do.
What is their role when it is absolutely wrong? The Hunter laptop is probably the best example we could roll out here.
I actually disagree with that, because when Twitter decided to add friction to the Hunter Biden laptop case, it actually got more views. You've also heard Mr. Taibbi talk about, 22 million tweets, millions of things censored through the GEC to the Election Integrity Partnership. You know how many emails went between the GEC and the EIP? 15. You can look it up in Chairman Jordan's documents that he released at the end of last year. 15 emails. I've sent more text messages to my husband about our toddler's potty training in the last week than emails went from the GEC to the EIP, and those were all about overt Russian propaganda, RT and Sputnik, except for one when the GEC analyst said to the folks there, I can't comment on this one because I'm a government employee, but I think you should check it out. That's all that happened, sir.
So I'm going to leave you, and I'll yield back a little bit of my time. A direct quote from Joseph Goebbels. It is the absolute right of the state to supervise the formation of public opinion, and I think that may be what we're discussing here, and yield back.
Has the American Sunlight Project received funding either directly or indirectly from the George Soros or his foundations, including the Open Society Foundation?
Thank you, Congressman. I've received a lot of threats for speaking out, and so I've decided that we are going to abide by the rules that other 501c4s in our country abide by, and we are not required to disclose our donors, small or large, because I frankly don't want them to be threatened the way that I have been.
So sunlight for other people, but not for your donors.
If you're interested in more sunlight, I welcome you to introduce some legislation to overturn Citizens United, sir.
So, this year, in the past year, the American people knew there was something wrong with President Biden in the White House. They could see it before their very eyes. When White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that videos of President Biden looking lost or being disoriented and senile were disinformation and cheap fakes, should the government flag those videos for social media companies or have those videos taken down?
Congressman, I actually don't believe that the government should flag those videos or have those videos taken down. Thanks for the ability to correct the record on this idea that I'm some sort of, disinformation czar, as the chair referred to me as.
Should taxpayer-funded organizations have flagged those videos for social medias to take them down?
Taxpayer-funded organizations have a right to free speech. If they want to talk about their research and flag those videos, that's in their right to free speech, sure.
But you do acknowledge that there was a loss of trust in the American people when you had the White House press secretary calling them cheap fakes, and the American people could see between their very eyes that President Biden was disoriented.
Sir, I think in those cases there were nefarious editing techniques being used to make the effect seem worse than it actually was. And actually, I've talked to a lot of American citizens who are really disturbed about the propaganda coming out of the White House today. So I think we should focus on that in this hearing. It should be a bipartisan interest.
But do you acknowledge that there was a change in tone after President Biden's disastrous debate performance, almost as if there was an organized campaign?
Congressman, I'm interested in the threats facing our country today, not what happened last, what was it even, September, June? I can't remember.
But again, this gets to the very root interest here, which is you have U.S. government officials in a coordinated fashion working with the media to accelerate a narrative to the benefit of one political party, and it destroys trust in the American people to have folks be able to fight terrorism. I mean, that's, if we don't have trust and transparency and understanding of this core issue, then how can we get after the terrorists?
Well, I would agree with that, sir. And I think that if you're interested in trust and transparency, again, it is the duty of Congress to pass regulations of the social media platforms that would enable that. I would love to have my hands on some more data from the social media platforms so we can talk about the facts of what's going on instead of the cherry-picked emails that Mr. Taibbi and Mr. Weingarten have been, referencing throughout this hearing. Also, I think it's a great time to bring up the Supreme Court case that was referenced earlier. I think Mr. Weingarten said that the justices didn't rule on the facts. Actually, Amy Coney Barrett wrote, "The plaintiff cannot rest on mere allegations, but must instead point to factual evidence." The plaintiffs didn't find factual evidence of government coercion or censorship in the Murthy v. Missouri case, sir.
Do you believe that the 51 former intelligence officials who said that the Hunter Biden's laptop were a product of Russian disinformation, do you think they impacted the trust of the American people and the intelligence establishment to successfully use social media to go after terrorists?
Sir, does free speech only apply when you like what's being said? Those guys were exercising their right to free speech, and actually what they said was that it bore the hallmarks of a disinformation campaign, which, based on the evidence at the time, was true.
And I'd just like to give you one more opportunity to disclose the donors that fund you.
I'd like to give you another opportunity to overturn Citizens United, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.